There is so much information out there, isn't there? It can be just a lot to take in. And I might be part of that problem for you occasionally because every week you're hearing some new advice and a different angle and a different take. Now, the reason that we're Mind Your Midlife here is that I want to go into the mental aspects, the deep, deep layers, and not just do this, do this, do this, but what are we telling ourselves about it and how is it meaningful and how can we make it meaningful? But the fact remains, sometimes we get overwhelmed about how to actually live healthy and feel good in midlife. What the heck? Let's talk about it. Welcome to Mind Your Midlife, your go-to resource for confidence and success, one thought at a time. Unlike most advice out there, we believe that simply telling you to believe in yourself or change your habits isn't enough to wake up excited about life or feel truly confident in your body. Each week, you'll gain actionable strategies and, oh my goodness, powerful insights to stop feeling stuck and start loving your midlife. This is the Mind Your Midlife podcast. I once sat down with two of my friends and just said, I feel bleh. I feel off. I don't know. What is the word for that? Just, I'm bleh. I have no other term for it. And we all in this conversation were in our 50s, as I am now, and we didn't necessarily know the answer to that. Do I know what it's related to? Well, I imagine it's related to hormones. It's related maybe to being overextended and not resting enough. It's related to maybe some unhealthy habits of eating and drinking that I had been doing in that recent period. And deep under that, it's related to, am I valuing myself enough to, as you've heard me say before, take just a little bit more care of myself in this phase of life? Are you? Because all of this, the decision we make about how we're treating our bodies and how we're fixing any of these issues that we might want to fix, stems from, do you value yourself and believe deep down that you deserve to have a really great and vibrant midlife? Because if you really believe that, and that's what you're telling yourself in your head, then I'm here to help you underscore that and find solutions that fit for you. Intrigued? So we're going to have a bit of a holistic discussion today with my guest, Dee Davidson. Dee is a board-certified functional health practitioner. And if you've never heard of functional health, that's more of a whole body, holistic health perspective. She specializes in hormone balance, gut health, and root cause healing. And she has over 2 decades of experience, mostly, interestingly, working with women in midlife. She can do lab testing as well as help us through lifestyle shifts that make a huge difference. So I am super excited to introduce you to Dee. Okay, welcome, Dee.
Thank you so much for having me.
So let's just kind of start with this. I know that hormone balance is a big topic for you. It's something that you help people with, speak about a lot. So tell us how hormones have become an issue in your life or affected you.
We could talk a whole episode just on that, Cheryl, but I'll give you the snippet. And I know that your audience is a little bit older. I'm in my 50s, but it did start back in my early 30s when I went to conceive and I was placed in this category called unexplained infertility, which I think there's always an explanation for everything. So I started to dig into who else was in this category of unexplained infertility and what might, have affected me being in this category. And I started to really become fascinated at how little information is out there, whether it be for young girls who are having painful periods or PCOS or infertility or at midlife with perimenopause and menopause. There just isn't really a lot of education for women in regard to their hormones. And I was fascinated with how many different things can have an impact. It's not just, seed cycling or reducing stress and relaxing to get pregnant. And it's not, you're getting hot flashes, so you put some yam cream on. There's just so much information and so many things that go into it that it brought me to where I am today. So to give you the snippet is that I went through an unexplained infertility. I was able to conceive my two boys who are now 13 and 15, one through the blessing of IVF. I've learned a lot about infertility. I still do help a lot of women with infertility, but my main clientele are women ages 40 plus who are now seeing their body change. And how hormones affected me later in life is that I had a really hard time embracing the shift from my 30s to 40s and now 50s as to questioning why am I bloated now? Why, why don't I have the six pack? Why do I not feel the way that I did? So I had to really understand that hormone health, it doesn't only impact reproduction or your periods, that it impacts everything, right? I call it a control panel. It controls your brain, your pituitary, your thyroid, your adrenals, your metabolism, your insulin. It is your control panel. And so, later on in life, things just don't run as smoothly for most of us as they once did. And one little stressor here or one little stressor there will really affect the hormones, which are signals. And so I had to learn how to recalibrate my body and find its way back to ease and balance. And now I really enjoy helping women, all ages really, but my clientele is women midlife, if you will, who are confused. They don't really know what's going on with their body. They're not loving themselves when they look in the mirror, and it's overwhelming. So that's why I'm so passionate about it, because it's overwhelming. And to have someone have a roadmap or a checklist and say, all right, well, let's look at, the call right before this was a woman who she wanted to have functional lab testing. As you know, that's something that I do.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, oh, my sister worked with you and she had all this testing done and she thinks I need to talk to you. I said, well, before we talk about lab testing, let's talk about the things we can take personal responsibility for that affect our hormones. And right away, we started talking about nutrition and blood sugar management. And right there, she was telling me she drinks coffee on an empty stomach. She goes 5 hours, 7 hours without eating till her lunch. So there's just so much that impacts the hormones. And a lot of it doesn't really need to be overwhelming. You just need someone who understands hormone health like myself to say, well, let's go through this checklist and see what things are you doing that are supporting your hormones or maybe harming your hormones. And that's what I love about it, is that you really can find yourself back to feeling good again. And you just need to know what things affect your hormones.
Yeah. And there's two reasons I'm really excited to have you on the podcast. One is that, yes, the people listening are absolutely 40 and above. I'm in my 50s as well. So yes, we're absolutely in the same place. And the second reason is exactly what you said, the word overwhelm or overwhelming, because, and as a podcast host, I'm on here every week talking about things you can do in midlife, and I might be the source of someone's overwhelm occasionally, which is not my goal, of course. But when we get all this information about what we could do to feel better and be more productive and sleep better and this and that, it can be a lot. And I do see your point that hormones are really kind of the control center in a lot of ways. So let's start here. One thing you said to me when we first met is that a lot of women are kind of just feeling off. They just describe it as, I don't feel myself. I feel off. And so I know that you've heard that many, many times.
Oh,
So
yes.
what would you say to someone who's kind of feeling that way?
Yes, I would say that you need to listen to your intuition. Those voices that we hear, those little nudges that we feel, they're real, and so don't ignore them. Those are real signals. Those are signs that something is indeed off. So some of those signs, whether it be bloating, right? Bloating, poor sleep, hot flashes. You don't just get hot flashes because you're in midlife. I've
Mm.
had them in the past, but then I also know what can contribute to them. And then I go, yeah, I got to take a little more personal accountability around that. And then I haven't had them in a long time, right? So anything that you're experiencing that doesn't feel familiar to who you are or what you've experienced is a little tap on the shoulder to say, okay, well, let me investigate what might contribute to that symptom, that feeling off.
Hmm.
And see again, take inventory, personal responsibility for I'm not managing stress, I'm not breathing, I'm not, eating enough protein, whatever those things that come back in relationship to that symptom. But if you feel off, you're probably off, and then getting the help or the information to see like, well, why, where is that stemming from?
Yeah, yeah, figuring it out. So
Hmm.
let's go down this tangent because I hope it's a good example of, a symptom that women might be feeling. But when you said that we don't really have to have hot flashes, it
Hmm.
caught my attention
Yes,
because
it's
I
true.
don't have terrible hot flashes, but
Hmm.
sometimes I have them significantly.
Uh-huh.
So tell us a little bit more about what you mean about being able to minimize that or control that. Have you ever wished you could somehow be part of these podcast interviews and ask the questions you wanted to ask? Well, now you can when you join Midlife Pivot on Patreon. Members help me shape what I ask in the episodes, get bonus content, and of course, always know what's coming next. Join for free at patreon.com/mindyourmidlife.
Yeah, so I'm very proud because I have a lot of women that come to me with hot flashes of the fact that I've helped a lot of women, eliminate, diminish them. But a lot of them just don't even have it anymore. I have found there's a huge correlation between hot flashes and blood sugar management.
Hmm.
Now, the blood sugar management piece isn't as simple as people think either. People think like blood sugar management is I don't eat a lot of candy or fruit high in sugar, and I'm eating protein and stabilizing my blood sugar. But the thing is that blood sugar is so much more complicated. And if anyone's wondering, am I balancing my blood sugar? A great place to start is I follow this woman, the glucose goddess. Have you heard of her?
I have not.
She's
Oh.
awesome. And one of my clients, she had really high A1C, and she's fit and she does all the things and looks good, but her A1C was really high. She was having hot flashes, by the way. And I recommended this, and she's gotten her A1C, back to normal within the last 6 months. But she said, oh my gosh, that woman is awesome. She got her book or whatever. But there's a lot of pieces that would take us way more than 30 minutes to get into. But I would say look into blood sugar regulation, because typically once you get your blood sugar under control, doesn't mean that your A1C or your fasting glucose is high, but that throughout the day you have a good pattern of staying stable, the hot flashes go away. There's just a correlation between those two things. Funny enough. And is it because cortisol spikes when our blood sugar is dysregulated? I haven't gone that far, but stabilize your blood sugar and your hot flashes will typically go away. The other piece of blood sugar regulation is stress. So there is a
Mm.
piece that people need to understand. It's not just food and exercise. Stress will elevate your blood sugar, by the way. So if you're not doing a good job of managing stress, or you have leaky boundaries, or you're not saying no when you need to be saying no and resting, that too will dysregulate your blood sugar. But blood sugar and hot flashes, huge correlation.
This is the very first time I've ever heard anyone say that.
Wow.
100%.
Yep. Yep. And I'm telling you, it's like the first thing I work with people on is blood sugar regulation, because it's the root cause. Dysregulation is the root cause of your immune system getting taxed, inflammation, again, good sleep. If your cortisol's spiking at night because your blood sugar was dysregulated during the day, and when you go to sleep at night, it's trying to recalculate, if you can imagine that.
Mm.
And cortisol spikes and you wake up. So that's another reason why in midlife women go, oh, I can't sleep or I can't stay asleep. And then we talk about their nutrition and their blood sugar regulation. And it's like, well, if you didn't do a great job of regulating your blood sugar during the day, when you go to sleep, your body is doing a reboot, right? It's like when we do the updates on our phone or our computer,
Right.
it's trying to help you. So when you're not eating, walking, talking, having a bowel movement, your body feels like, all right, she's sleeping right now. So we're going to try to, correct things. And so if you didn't do a good job with the blood sugar during the day, it's also a reason that I see people having night sweats and waking up a lot.
Oh, so the body is trying to sort of fix, I'm going to loosely say, what we did
Yes.
wrong during the day.
Right.
And the harder it has to work, maybe the harder it is for us to sleep.
Yeah. So think about cortisol, your stress hormone that we hear so much about. Cortisol is the hormone that opens your eyes in the morning. If you don't spike cortisol, and when we do a circadian rhythm mapping or things like that, cortisol should be highest in the morning. It's the hormone that wakes you up. So think about when you go to sleep, you're trying to sleep, and start asking yourself and get curious, why is cortisol awake? Why is that spiking at night? Is it because my blood sugar is dysregulated? Is it because I haven't processed emotional stress when I go to bed? Is it because maybe I have some bad bacteria or things that's trying to clean up? That's the whole process of elimination of what things could it be. But one thing we can get under control is definitely our blood sugar through, eating enough protein, eating often enough, and things like that, managing stress.
I love it. And I love that you're saying it's not actually that hard to do, because I do think that back to that overwhelm, that we feel like, wow, that's a huge change. I'm never going to be able to do it. It's going to be too hard. And then we kind of
No.
stop ourselves.
It's being in tune, right? And that's why I have every single client do a food journal. It is one of the first things we do. And I know people go, oh, but it's like, but if you really want to understand where the vital voids are, I call them vital voids, then you have to, there's something about writing it down and looking at it that makes it real, right? Because I have a lot of clients, especially women, who say, oh, I eat protein, and then they like having 2 eggs. That's 12 grams of protein. You need to eat 25 to 30 grams of protein with each meal to stabilize your blood sugar, right? So it is eye-opening when you do a food journal, and we don't do it for the rest of our life, but we do it to learn about ourselves and learn about patterns and where those gaps are, where the vital voids are, so that we can help ourselves and go, okay, I didn't realize I'm only having 20 grams, or I'm going 6 hours without eating. What happens to my blood sugar, which is a whole cascading effect on the rest of our health and our hormones.
Yeah, that's a good point, because we do feel like, oh, I'm eating some eggs. That's plenty. That'll be fine. And
Mm-hmm.
actually, not blood sugar, but protein is such a
Mm-hmm.
big topic on social media right now
Mm-hmm.
for
Mm-hmm.
midlife women in particular.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like all I hear on Instagram is eat more protein, eat more protein, eat more protein. And it's a little daunting, especially because of
Sure.
what you just said. 2 eggs is
Sure.
not nearly enough. So,
Mm-hmm.
do you have any tips to kind of make it easier to add in more protein?
I think, again, it's controversial. Some people say, oh, no animal protein, no
True,
dairy, right? So
true.
everyone's got a different philosophy. I love ChatGPT in general. I don't know if you use it, Cheryl,
I
but for a
do.
lot of my clients, because we are so different, and I hate that social media makes us so in the box, right?
Mhm.
Everyone can eat a cup of yogurt and then have this. And it's like, I don't eat dairy, right?
Yeah.
So I think nutrition is so bio individualized, and what works for one person might not work for someone else. For me, I don't mind eating meat, chicken for breakfast. Someone might go, "Ooh, that's too much for me." So I like to have my clients use Chat GPT as a tool where you can put in what types of protein you like, right? And if you're not really sure, because people don't realize like hemp seeds might add protein, they're
Hmm.
just thinking of meat and eggs, right? Or dairy, but you also get protein from some vegetables and things like that. So, putting in Chat GPT, build me, and I recommend starting with one meal at a time instead of saying the whole day.
That's
because we
fair.
have to get one meal down, then move to the next. I just think it's way too overwhelming to say, like, give me 200 grams of protein a day.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I got to change all this stuff. So start with maybe breakfast, because I do know breakfast is the most important meal of the day when it comes to blood sugar regulation. Where if you're eating high sugar breakfast, which a lot of Americans do, or
Yes.
high carb breakfast, all day long, your body is fighting back that blood sugar. It's trying to correct,
Mm.
going into the sleep cycle, right? So making sure that you have that high protein breakfast. So that's a good place to start, is to say, all right, build me a high protein breakfast, 25 to 30 grams. Here are the foods that I like. Don't focus on what you don't like. I think it's way more fun, Cheryl, to focus on, like, what do I like to eat, right? Instead of like,
Mm.
I got to eliminate all these foods and I can't eat this and I can't eat that, and then see what Chat GPT comes back with. I just think it's amazing that, I know people, there's conflicting opinions on Chat GPT, but as a tool for nutrition and meal planning, and even I have clients who use it for their dinners, and it'll even break out the recipe and the grocery list, just seeding Chat GPT to say, like, here's the parameter, and start with one meal and then go to the next, because I think it is very variable for people. Like, I don't eat dairy, but some other people, they like to eat cottage cheese and yogurt and things
Right.
like that. Layering, that's the thing I want you to walk away listening to this, is that you don't just have to eat 5 eggs, right, to get to your 30 grams of protein. It can be, you're getting some protein from spinach and you're getting some protein from whatever you're layering on there. It doesn't have to be one source. And it gets easier because you get used to, what things add up.
You know what? You said exactly not what I expected you to say. And I love that because
I don't like to be the average, on the podcast, right?
exactly right. And as we're talking about this, Chat GPT, I feel like, can become maybe the next super browser in this way, because
Mm-hmm.
instead of Googling, we're able to ask it and we're able to be very specific. And it's all it's doing is it's going and looking out at all the knowledge that it can find, and it's coming
Yeah.
back with an answer, but even better than Googling. And I love that you said that. And personally, I don't eat dairy either. So I do know, like, some alternate ways to get protein, but I know I'm not getting enough given what you've said. So I will try it as well.
Yeah, and you can be so specific to say, these foods, and it's so personalized. That's what I love, is that, why do we all have to be the same? Like, we're not the same people, Cheryl. I have different likes and dislikes, and different food sensitivities and things like that. And you can say, make them single ingredient foods if you don't want to eat, processed food and things like that. It meets you where you're at, because for some of my clients, they come to me and they are still eating like a healthier waffle or protein pancake, and I have to meet them where they're at and say, this is really where we want you, but let's not look at the gap. Let's see, like, how can we get you there.
Right, right. I want to circle back to something you said, and that was doing and being. And I think for me, my kids are in their 20s, so they're living on their own. You're in a different phase in terms
Mm-hmm.
of having kids at home and taking care of them. And when we're in that phase where we're hands on all day, all the time, there's not a lot of being, I think.
Mm-hmm.
It's doing. And we make it through, and then we
Yep.
get to a point where we have a moment to go, oh, okay. Now I can take care of myself, maybe, but we're not used to it. And we almost
That's
don't know
true.
how to do it. And
That's true.
so the fact that you're saying balance doing and being, to me, says that really well.
It's true. And a good place I have a lot of clients that are in your phase of life or beyond. I have a lot of clients who've already retired, and they don't really have a new routine or a new set schedule, and definitely have never been used to being. And I'd say start with the bookends, right? What do you do in the first hour of the day? That's a good place to just be,
Mm,
and set your intention for the day, do some breathing, get some sunlight. get outside, that type of stuff. And then the stuff's going to happen in between, right? Where some days you can be more than other days we have to be doing, right?
Yeah.
And then at the end of the day, what's that last hour look like again? Are you doing your meditation or journaling or reflecting on the day or gratitude and things like that? So start with yourself, because you're going to give to everybody else in between, and
Hmm.
then end with yourself, right? Always come back to self at the end of the day too.
I love that. It's very simple. It's easy to remember. Absolutely. And I love to just read and relax at night. So I think I have the night down, but I'm not sure I have the morning down. So I need to think
Well,
about
most
that.
most women wake up, their eyes open, and go, "Hey, I got to do this
Yeah.
and I got to do that." And that's the piece where we have to be a little bit more aware. And sometimes it just starts with 10 minutes with yourself of just, how do I want to? Again, when we talk about being and doing, I laugh when I talk to my clients and I ask them, like, how are you setting your intention for the day? And they start to give me their to-do list. Like, I have to take my mother to doctor's appointment. Like, no, not that's again doing, but how do you want to feel today? Take yourself through the day. Of course, we can't control how the day is going to go, but how do you want to feel today on the other side? What's your intention for your day? It could just be starting with that. That's starting with yourself and telling yourself, this is how I want to feel today. And then you can, again, habit stack as you go along. Some people like journaling. Some people like doing meditation. Some people like doing some kind of exercise before they go on their phone. But start with yourself, big or small.
I love that. And one thing that I've really had to force myself to learn is to set an intention before the day, before doing something, before talking to someone. It was not something that I ever
Mhm.
understood at all. And it's
Mhm.
huge. So I
It makes a
appreciate that.
difference, doesn't
Yeah,
it?
it really, really does. It absolutely does. Okay. So I have one more sort of big overarching question for you. But before I do that, so that I don't forget, I like the
Mhm.
way that you work with clients in that you look at sort of this whole life perspective
Mhm.
and help them figure out some things that they could change without it being medication or without it
Mhm.
being supplements necessarily. But then that's involved and you can do the testing and you can
Mhm.
kind of do it all. So, where
Right.
can people find you if they're curious about what you do or they want to learn more?
Yes, great question. Just on my website, confidentlyloveyourself.com, or on Instagram, confidently_love_yourself. A lot of freebies and things on my website and on my Instagram as well. And if they're just curious and want to poke around, there's a blog, my Confidently Balance Your my Confidently Balance Your Hormones podcast is on there as well.
Yes, and I'll make sure the links are in the show notes for everything as well. Thank you. So the sort of overarching question I'm referring to is we've talked about a lot of things, and I
Mhm.
know I'm taking away a couple of things that I am absolutely going to use. And that being said, after listening to a podcast episode, nobody can remember everything.
That's right.
So for the person who's listening, who's driving or walking or whatever, and they should hold on to, in your opinion, one particular OMG thing, what would you say that is?
I would say that you need to stop ignoring the signs, the symptoms. If you're waking up and having a headache, if you're waking up in the middle of the night or you're not getting good sleep, I'm here 51 again. I go to bed at 10 and I wake up usually at 5:30, and I don't wake up, and I don't even, not even to go to the bathroom, right? So you don't have to be stuck with those symptoms. And what I want to tell you is that the symptoms are taps on the shoulder to go a little deeper while you can. I always tell my clients it's a blessing. A symptom's a blessing because it's your body saying, hey, pay attention. And then from there, look for help and be an advocate. Even if your doctor's saying your labs look okay and everything's fine, it's a part of midlife. That's not true. You can still have vitality and feel your best. It is an opportunity. A symptom is an opportunity to ask more questions and get curious about your body. I'm here. Cheryl's got, her knowledge and a huge network like I do. There's always someone out there. And whoever your greater force or being is, God, spirit, the universe, ask, just sit and say, what do I need? And listen to that
Mm.
message that comes back. What do I need? What does my body need? What does this mean? What is this telling me? Get curious, and then be an advocate for your health and put it out there and seek the answers, because symptoms are not normal.
That's a bit of a mic drop. We don't have to live this way. We can
No.
we can feel great. It doesn't matter that we're in our 50s or 40s or 60s. Yes.
Right.
Thank you. Well, Dee, I know that this is going to be a very popular episode because you have said some things a little differently than others have said it, and that is amazing. So thank you for joining me.
Thanks so much for having me.
What a fascinating discussion. First of all, her OMG moment I find to be tremendously empowering. Trust your instincts. You can feel amazing. Find the help. And that, again, is back to what I said at the beginning. When we believe deep in our gut, in the thoughts in our head, in our subconscious mind that we deserve it, we're going to figure it out. And the next thing I want to say is, I'm not sure anyone has ever made such a connection for me, and maybe you agree with this too, about blood sugar management and hot flashes. What? You can bet I'm digging into that. So, huge things learned today. I hope you agree. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Make sure that you have joined us in Patreon for Midlife Pivot. And that's patreon.com/mindyourmidlife. Easy to find, absolutely free all summer. And Dee joins me for an extra little discussion of her DRESS acronym and what all the pieces of that are to help you kind of take stock of where you are and where you might want to tweak something to feel even better in your life. So I'll see you over there. And make sure you've hit the follow button, because next week we're going to talk about something you might have heard of before, and that is vision boards. But we're going to tweak it so that when you're in midlife and you are wanting stuff to look forward to in your life over the next 20, 30, 40 years, you can make a vision board. And I'm going to make it easy for you because, just like you heard today, we might just be talking about AI again. I'll see you then. And in the meantime, slow down, notice what's going on in your head and what's going on around you, and let's create something amazing.